Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Now celebrating 17 years of broadcasting success, here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again, both for those tuning in on the radio dial as well as our online audience through iHeartRadio. We're glad you all could join us as well. Well, as you guys know, I've been halting my travels since March. The travel industry has definitely been hit hard because of the coronavirus or COVID-19, but thankfully, there does seem to be some bright spots coming up ahead. A recent booking data report shows that travel is heading back with a small bounce back. Here to talk to us about that and what you guys can expect when it comes to travel and maybe even give you guys some ideas, we're excited to welcome Chris Lehane to our program. Chris is the Vice President for Global Public Policy and Communications at Airbnb. He's going to talk to us about some of the things you guys need to know to make some safe traveling plans. Chris, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Cyrus, thank you for having me. I hope everyone in the Jackson area is safe and secure and healthy given everything that's going on, and really appreciate everything that you guys are doing on the front lines out there, having to cover this stuff. So thanks for having me.
Oh, the pleasure's definitely on mine. We appreciate that, Chris. So, Chris, a lot for us to cover here. As I said, of course, everyone's been impacted by COVID-19, the travel industry in particular. How have you seen the industry being transformed because of the virus this year, Chris?
A great question. So first and foremost, I think what has clearly come through is that travel is inherent and innate to being a human. People do want to travel. But, of course, not surprisingly, the nature of how they're traveling is changing really significantly. For all the obvious reasons, they are prioritizing health and safety, responsible travel. And what that really translates into is really wanting to just change travel so that they can have maximum control over how they travel. And, on our platform, we've seen that break down really in two very distinct ways. The first is that people are now traveling really within 300 miles of where they live, typically, a full tank of gas, a drive, so much more local, hyper-local. And then secondly, and this isn't anything that we Airbnb have done, it's what our hosts have done, they make available whole homes, and people are really looking for accommodations where they can have multiple bedrooms, where they can potentially have a pool, where they can locate a whole home near where they're going, a beach, a lake, mountains, parks, and most importantly, where they're able to maintain privacy of who comes in, who comes out, no common spaces, no common rooms. And I think I can probably say this as a little bit of the older guy. In many respects, you put all this together, and it's a little bit of a throwback to when I was a kid. We'd jump in the station wagon, throw the dog in, drive, go see grandparents by the lake or by a park. And those are the types of vacations that's how people are traveling now. And I think project that going forward, people are just going to want to have control of that experience, how they get there, where they stay, who they stay with, what they do while they're there. And I think that's going to just accelerate a desire for local, authentic, unique type of travel.
Right. Chris, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because one of the things I did in prepping for this segment, I was looking at some of the sites here in Mississippi, of course, for Airbnb. And a lot of the locations, I thought, you know what, I've never even been to that area before. So it's a great opportunity to be able to explore things literally in our backyards here. I mentioned, of course, the booking data report, Chris, showing that things are beginning to make a bounce back when it comes to travel. So what have you noticed that this report has really shown when it comes to traveling trends? I know you mentioned about being able to travel closer to home, but are there any other trends that you noticed?
Yeah, so first of all, you're 100% right. There is something really interesting about that local backyard travel, discovering, exploring your own community. And by the way, being able to generate economics for your neighbors. And I think one of the trends that I think is really relevant to Mississippi is that we've just seen as a byproduct of that local travel a real increase in the impact on more rural communities. Over the month of June alone, we generated $200 million for hosts in rural communities around the U.S. And, a while ago, I did, the Mississippi Blues Tour and stayed in a bunch of those small towns through Mississippi. By the way, just as an aside, like the food that you get in some of those places, incredible. And the fact that you get that food and just hear people play that music, as part of the course is just incredible. But I think that's the type of travel, when you talk about local, authentic, unique, that, Mississippi is really poised to benefit from even more. Again, I don't want to suggest that there's good things because of this pandemic. It will have consequences. And so looking for some of the silver linings is, global, before the pandemic, travel was about 10% of the global economy, probably a little bit less in Mississippi, although you had places in Tunica and obviously some of these other areas that were pretty big. I think Mississippi has the potential on the other side of this pandemic as we work our way through it, to effectively benefit from the democratizing of travel as people become more interested in traveling to these types of places.
All right, so true. And so that brings up this point then, Chris, because as people are venturing out, of course, safety is a big concern. It was just announced this week for us that we now have, unfortunately, over half of our state now are on mask policies because we have become one of the hot spots. So when it comes to Airbnb, though, when it comes to promoting traveling, and of course that's one of the things we want to be able to get out, what is it that you guys are doing to ensure the safety both for the host as well as for the guest?
Yeah, great question. Really an important question. But obviously, we've touched on that there's an inherent safety component with the fact that you get a whole home because you can control access and privacy and really set your family up well. But back in March, when the World Health Organization declared a global pandemic, we were amongst the first, if not the first, in the sector to create and introduce and put out to our hosts something called an enhanced cleaning protocol. It's really a fancy way of saying giving our hosts really pretty rigorous guidance on what they could do to make sure that they were cleaning their home appropriately given the nature of the virus. And the three core elements: first, equipment so hosts can keep themselves safe when they're cleaning. Secondly, the right type of cleaning products so that you're not just cleaning for clutter, but you're sanitizing for viruses. And then third, having a time period that we recommend on the conservative end, 24 hours between when that last person has been in cleaning and when the guest arrives. That time period is one of the best things that you can do to assure health and cleanliness. In addition to that, hosts and guests rate each other on our platform. It's a 5-star rating. If you're not consistently getting a 5-star, you get migrated off the platform pretty quickly. But what that really means, particularly in the context of prioritization on health and cleanliness, is that those hosts and those guests really have aligned interests. Hosts are not going to continue to get business if they're not getting rated incredibly highly on their cleanliness. And then in return, those guests won't be accepted in the future if they're not behaving themselves like it's their own homes, if they're not treating the community like it's their own community. And so that does align interest. And so you put all that together, it creates an ecosystem. And I think I mentioned this earlier, but 75% of people who've used us over the pandemic have said they did it because they trusted it more and they thought it was a better option when it came to their health, safety, and security. And that host-guest relationship, is part of that magic. It does facilitate and foster trust.
What a great thing, and I know our audience appreciates this, Chris, and I definitely appreciate your time. Again, everyone, Chris Lehane has been our guest. He's the Vice President for Global Public Policy and Communications at Airbnb, offering you guys a great way to be able to get out. I know a lot of us have been cooped up in our homes and communities. Great way to be able to get out, to travel a little bit safely, but more importantly, and Chris mentioned this, and I definitely want to reiterate it, to be able to support our own local economy as well by being able to explore some of the things that could be literally right around us. So, Chris, where can our audience go to be able to get more information or to be able to book a stay at Airbnb?
Yeah, I go to Airbnb.com, and if you want to be a host, you'll get all sorts of information there. It's really easy to sign up. And then, as a guest, you'll see that we've built in a whole suite of tools to really help you identify exactly where you want to go, particularly within that 300-mile radius that you may be looking to drive to, and be able to identify the exact type of home that you're looking for that will suit your needs and also make you feel comfortable and confident in the health and safety aspect.
All right, well, Chris, really appreciate the time. Congratulations on all the great things that Airbnb is doing to be able to help making traveling on our stays safer, and looking forward to speaking with you again.
Cyrus, thank you for the time. Again, really want to stress people prioritize your health and safety. And I have 2 teenage boys, and I cannot wait until I can get down to Mississippi and do one of those, the tours that I had taken a while ago
awesome.
Prior to having the kids. They would love it, and they'll enjoy the food and the music. It's an awesome place.
It definitely is, and we look forward to having you back, Chris. Thank you so much for that. And we definitely thank you, our audience, for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying, as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live today. Let's make today amazing. Take care.